Sam Darnold's mom and dad, Chris and Michael, there greeting their sons before our game today. The Dolphins and the Jets. The third member of our crew on the sideline. We say good afternoon to Steve Tasker.
Thanks, Kevin. You know, Jet fans watched their team pass the first test of the season on Monday night by winning handily in Detroit. But there's another test Jet fans would love to see. Can the team handle prosperity? In recent years, this team has been notorious for following up a big signature win by laying an egg. If the Jets come out and move to 2-0 on the season and Sam Darnold plays well, the over and under for this team and its fans putting themselves in the Super Bowl this year is 4:15 p.m. this afternoon. Kevin.
Unbelievable the attention this has gotten. Todd Bowles has said, you know what, let's, Rich, grade him in about 100 games, and I can tell you if he's the real deal.
Well, it's important for any team, Kevin, to learn to be able to handle success. And I think especially with a young quarterback, there are going to be growing pains. There are going to be peaks and valleys. You get the sense in visiting with Darnold, he's humble, he's very mature. It's certainly not too big for him. And I think he's quickly earned the respect of his teammates in this coaching staff.
We've had the flip of the coin. The Jets won the toss. They've deferred to the second half. The Dolphins will receive. Jason Myers has the ball teed up. Myers, effective last week in Detroit, had 9 kickoffs, all touchbacks. And deep back is Jakeem Grant, who returned a kickoff last week, 102 yards. Jets. Dolphins, CBS from the Meadowlands, and away we go. They're going to let it go out of the end zone. Touchback. It will go to the 25-yard line with our first look at quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Last week, Rich, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Well, I thought he got off to a good start versus the Titans. He completed 10 of his first 11. It's so important for a quarterback to get off to a quick start in games. Getting the flow and the rhythm early. That's why these offensive coordinators, these play callers, they spend so much time scripting the first 15 or 20 plays.
I know you're impressed with the team speed, the overall offensive speed of Miami.
Very noticeable. It reminds me a little bit of what the Chiefs have on the perimeter. They've got some guys that can get in and out of cuts.
The fake to Drake. Here comes Tannehill, the former college receiver, on the move and sliding past the 45-yard line for a first down run of 20 on the first play of the game. Tannehill for 20. Dolphins move the chains.
Well, you can't have, somebody's got to be able to set the edge. And this is a mistake. You look at the safety, Adams, he's down in there. He's got his eyes in the backfield. You look at Jordan Jenkins. I mean, this is just a mistake on the first play of the game.
5 in the secondary for the Jets. First down and 10. Drake gets the call. From behind, grabbed by Buster Skrine, who led the Jets in tackles last week in Detroit with 7. No gain on the play. Now the Dolphins have some bad news. Josh Sitton, who they got as a free agent, their 2-time Pro Bowl left guard, is out. Larson will take his place. No Devontae Parker today. He's still inactive. Second down and 10. Drake again swallowed up as he takes it inside with a gain of 2. A couple hits, including Brandon Copeland, who's taking the place of the concussed Josh Martin. On the line, the Pro Bowler Williams, McClendon the veteran. Linebackers, we mentioned Copeland. Lee last week had 2 interceptions, first 2 of his career. Secondary strength, Claiborne and Johnson, the corners. Again out is Marcus May with a foot injury. Middleton will take his place. 3rd and 8 for Tannehill. Gets it out to Drake, who played at Alabama. And he's knocked out of bounds, running out of real estate with a gain of 2 up to the 48-yard line. It is 4th down. Here comes the Miami punting unit. Adams on the coverage and the hit.
Well, the Dolphins need to be better on 3rd down. They were dead last a season ago in 3rd down offense. They've finished in the bottom 3 in 2 of the previous 3 seasons. Talked to play caller and head coach Adam Gase last night. He said it's certainly been a point of emphasis. In fact, he said we'd be better off sometimes just running our 1st and 2nd down plays on 3rd down.
Matt Hawk to punt. Andre Roberts, who had a punt return touchdown last week for 78 yards, is back. And that'll be inside the 5-yard line. Well-placed punt by Hawk. Sam Darnold will walk back out there after that 48-yard punt. Marooned it is 4. First look at the rookie quarterback today on CBS. Ridge, the Jets traded up from number 6 to number 3 in the draft to get USC's Sam Darnold.
Yeah, you know, they're so desperate for a franchise quarterback that this city has gone absolutely bonkers over Sam Darnold after just one game. You know, their hopes, Kevin, have been dashed so many times in the past that they just need Darnold to be that guy.
3 tight ends with Powell. 1st and 10.
Ready? Reset.
Bilal Powell averaged 5 yards a carry last week, and they're jumping on him after a gain of 1, hit by Godshaw on the line. The offensive lineup for the Jets. Long has come over as a free agent, and he's been terrific. Winters, who missed some of last year with an injury, is back. Powell, Crowell, effective last week, as Rich talked about. Curse, Jermaine Curse, with his NFL seasonal debut today. Missing last week with an abdominal strain in Detroit. 2nd down and 9 with an empty backfield for Darnold. Outside he goes quickly. Powell, 15-yard line, hit by a couple, including a Keem Spence gain of 10. That is a 1st down to the 15-yard line. And the Miami defense. Edge rushers, a huge concern for the Jets offense today. Wake and Quinn, 2 of the best. Quinn, the former Los Angeles Ram. There's the secondary. Alonzo was at Buffalo and now at Miami, certainly, and leading them in tackles. The secondary, Jones with a couple picks last week. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler at the safety. 1st and 10. Referee today, Brad Allen.
False start. Offense, number 68. 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
And that's the starting left tackle, Calvin Beachum.
Well, they get both Beachum and the tight end. You see Sterling, he jumps as well. And Sam Darnold talked about changing up this snap count. Remember now, the Dolphins have 2 premier edge rushers. And you got a guy like Cameron Wake on one side and Robert Quinn on the other side. You have to continually change up the snap count.
4 in the secondary, Powell in the backfield, 1st and 15. Bubble, Powell jumping on it, and TJ McDonald jumping on him at about the 8-yard line, losing 2.
You see a little bit of indecision here. They run this zone read, and Darnold's going to put the ball in. It just seems like wasn't sure whether Bilal Powell thought he was to keep it or the quarterback was going to pull it.
More times than not, Rich, who's at fault there, quarterback or running back? More times than not.
Well, in that situation, Kevin, you know, as a young quarterback, he usually gets the brunt of the blame. And in that case, you know, we always talk about the quarterback center exchange. Also, the ball exchange and the ball placement in the running game critical as well.
2nd down, 17 across Powell. Nice catch. Alonzo's got him near the 14-yard line. Good catch by Bilal Powell with a gain of 6 on the play.
You've seen a lot of no backs, some empty looks, getting 5 out in the route, and Darnold knows he can't hold it. The ball's got to come out on time. I think that the Jets feel a little bit better about their line play with the addition of Spencer Long at center. He is a guy that can handle the one-on-ones. He's anchoring that offensive line. He's done a nice job inside. Good communicator, extremely athletic.
Came over from the Redskins. He was a former 3rd-round pick by the Skins. 3rd down, 11. Powell a block. Darnold on the move. And incomplete. Enunwa down the sideline. Coverage on the play by Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Well, the Dolphins are very aware of the fact that Darnold likes to step up and slide to his right. You see the man-to-man coverage. Somebody's got to win. And Quincy Enunwa, we talked about him in the open, Kevin. He's a very talented player. But you look at Darnold. He wants to slide to his right. He throws the ball very accurately on the move.
Jakeem Grant is back, and he's awaiting the punt from Lachlan Edwards. Set a team record a season ago for the Jets in gross and net punting.
He's very dangerous. Had a kickoff return for a touchdown last week. against the Titans.
He's the NFL Special Team Player of the Week. Is Grant Edwards. Not much wind here in the Meadowlands today. High and hanging. They're down there to cover. Fair caught, 40-yard line, 46-yarder with 4-8 hang. Another look at Ryan Tannehill in a scoreless first quarter, 9:09 in the first.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Ram Trucks. NFL Sunday Ticket on DirecTV. And by Corona Extra. Find your beach.
Beautiful day in New York, Hudson River. A lot of boating activity. Scoreless, 9:09. Each team has had it once. Each team is punting. Second possession for Tannehill with a couple tight ends. 1st and 10. Gore in the backfield.
Well, they want Jamal Adams down around the line of scrimmage.
Fake tight end with the block. Tannehill being chased by Adams.
That's
Ball
right.
is, yes it is, and recovered by Miami. It was recovered by the tight end Derby. The Jets defense with their first sack of the season, and Adams will throw him for a loss of 6.
You're not paying attention if you don't watch and keep an eye on number 33. He's down around the line of scrimmage for a reason. And if you want to send one of your tight ends over there to block him, you're just asking for trouble. He is a timely blitzer. He's an excellent run support player. When he gets around the quarterback, he does a great job stripping the ball away. I really like Jamal Adams.
5 in the secondary. 2nd down and 16 for Tannehill as they lose 6 on that play, and that is grabbed, and going down is Danny Amendola with a gain of 8 on the play. Amendola last week with 4 catches against the Titans, and he's up to the 41-yard line.
Well, not only do you get a really good slot player, but you get an excellent mentor in the locker room, a guy that's been on championship teams, knows how to compete. More importantly, he knows how to work.
Drake is the running back, and Rich, no huddle here. They have a fast tempo with this offense, don't they?
They want to make it difficult for the Jets to make substitutions and to dial up all those pressures.
Into the nickel, 3rd and 8. Oh, it's getting crowded. Down he goes, sacked. Another one right there. And the newest on that line, Henry Anderson. Got him in a trade with the Colts. Losses back to the 27. Losing 6 on the play. And here comes a limping Tannehill to the sideline.
Well, you watch Tannehill, the top of his drop. He never sets his feet, and he doesn't step up in the pocket because of the push up inside. And watch him come down awkwardly on that knee with the brace. It was that left knee that kept him sidelined all of 2017.
3 plays, punt. Hawk to boot it. Windless afternoon here in the Meadowlands. Deep back is Roberts. Low. John Denny is the long snapper. He's got a bad shoulder, the 39-year-old long snapper. And you can see the roll and the Dolphin bounce. It'll be inside the 15. To the 10. So the last time the Jets began at the 4, now they begin at the 10. 63-yard punt. How about the Jet D with 2 sacks on that drive? Scoreless first quarter, Monday, September 24th on CBS. One name says it all, Magnum PI. Don't miss the series premiere 1 week from tomorrow on CBS. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Steve Tasker on the sideline. Second possession for the Jets. First time Rich beginning at the 4, here at the 10.
Not great field position, especially when you're operating an inexperienced quarterback in week 2.
Crowell in, nickel secondary, 1st and 10. Isaiah Crowell. And he is out with a gain of 5. Brought down by Taylor. Gain of 5 on the play to the 15-yard line.
I really like how they really focus on the running game. Isaiah Crowell, durable, powerfully built. He runs with a low center of gravity. Breaks a lot of tackles. 102 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Detroit. I love what offensive coordinator Jeremy Bates had to say about him. He said he runs angry on game days, a lot like Marshawn Lynch, who Bates was with 1 year in Seattle.
Kill. Ready. Reset.
With a couple tight ends, Crowell on 2nd down and 5 into the secondary and a 1st down. Brought down by Alonso along with a couple others. It is a gain of 9, a sprint to the 24, and a first down for the Jets.
Well, if you're the Dolphins, you have to be able to stop that outside zone. You're going to see a ton of it. The big reason why they made the change from Johnny Morton to Jeremy Bates was more of an emphasis on the running game on early downs.
162 yards on the ground last week and 2 touchdowns on the 22 carries. First and 10 here for Darnold. And through the hands of his intended receiver at the coverage by Alonso. They were going for the former Cleveland Brown running back Isaiah Crowell.
We mentioned the change at coordinator and talked about more of an emphasis on the running game. That's what Todd Bowles talked about. If you look at Jeremy Bates, very close by on the sidelines is another guy that is very involved in the run game. Run game coordinator Rick Dennison, who was the Bills' offensive coordinator last year. He's going to be very involved. They have conversations during the sequence about what plays Dennison likes to run in the run game.
Nickel secondary with Crowell back there on the fake. 2nd and 10. It's Enunwa, who was getting the block on the play from fellow wide receiver Terrell Pryor. He picks up 7. He's brought down to the play by Alonso and others. Micah Fitzpatrick there at the 31.
Well, you have to keep feeding the ball to Quincy Enunwa. Kevin, I mentioned it in the open. Jeremy Bates said he's a running back in a tight end's body playing wide receiver. He is a beast, a tough tackle with the ball in his hands, and he's a matchup problem.
That's a good combination of characteristics, isn't it?
Think about that. I mean, that's unusual.
3rd down and 3. Nickel. They need the 35. They go outside. Enunwa diving for the first down. Got it near the 35-yard line. Minka Fitzpatrick, who's all over the place, playing sideline to sideline. It is a Jets gain of 4 and another first down.
Well, notice the tempo and also the quick throws. They don't want Darnold holding the football, so it's a lot of 3-step throws, short, quick, high percentage throws for the rookie quarterback. You see Robbie Anderson gets the block that frees up Enunwa. Enunwa is very dangerous with the ball in his hands. He can make the first defender miss.
Powell in there.
Ready. Reset.
With the 1st and 10. There goes a flag, free down for Darnold. Let's see if he reads it. Look out. Here they come. The guy that was offside, Charles Harris, is the one who got him. Former first-round pick out of Missouri, losing 5 on the play, but the flag is out there.
Offside. Defense, number 50. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Let's go to James Brown in our CBS studios with this NFL update.
Weapons on Kansas City.
How about this high-flying offense? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, 19 yards. Patrick Mahomes already 2 touchdowns on the day as they lead Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh 14-0.
So, Kevin, was Phil Simms an offensive lineman in a nose tackle's body playing quarterback?
Wow. I can hear him in the background. Wow.
1st and 5. Powell is in.
Ready. Reset.
Well, Powell immediately in there. Gonshaw makes the stop. Former LSU Bayou Bengal losing 2 on the play. Back to the 39. Quickly on Mahomes, Richie. I know you're impressed with his arm for Kansas City.
He is the gunslinger of this new era of quarterbacks, Kevin. A first-round pick last year. He sat and watched behind Alex Smith. 4 touchdowns last week on the road against the Chargers. 2 more today against the Steelers. He's the real deal.
2nd and 6. 21-year-old Sam Darnold.
Just 21 throws last week against Detroit, and that's the key. They want to keep his attempts in the 20s every week if you can.
Powell back there, 2nd down and 6, and it's picked off. Intercepted on the play by T.J. McDonald, looking for a block, gets by Beachum, wants to feed, takes it to the 15. Powell got him, 31-yard return. Darnold has thrown his 2nd interception as a pro and his 1st today.
Well, this is important. Keep an eye on McDonald. He's going to move to his left initially, and then he comes back to his right. And what happens is Darnold doesn't see him. He thinks he's covering the tight end, but then he falls off, and he's going to jump the slant route. The rookie quarterback simply gets fooled by the veteran safety. You see where his eyes are? He never feels T.J. McDonald.
Donald, a former third-round pick. First down and 10 from the 15. Drake spinning to the 10, to the 9. And he picks up 6. Screen was among a couple down there making the stop at the 9.
Well, Kenyon Drake really came on in the second half of the season last year after the Dolphins traded away Jay Ajayi and after Damian Williams sustained that shoulder injury. He's got a lot of speed and elusiveness to get outside on the perimeter for defense, whereas Frank Gore is more apt to run up between the tackles.
Drake was a sprint champion in high school in the state of Georgia. Played for Saban at Alabama. Second down and 4. Here's the Wildcat, Wilson. To the 6, and they smother him there and may have leaned his way near the 5. Hard run. A couple guys hitting him, including Middleton, with the gain of 3 on the play for Miami after the pick by McDonald off of Sam Darnold. They do a lot with this Albert Wilson. He comes from Kansas City, and they use him as a running back, a slot, wide receiver, all over the joint.
They can do so many things. They went back and really studied his pass, and I anticipate you'll see more of Albert Wilson lined up all over the place in this Miami offense. This was a point of emphasis last year. Red zone defense holding teams to field goals in this part of the field.
It's Drake slithering, touchdown. Kenyon Drake, 6-yard touchdown run. And they cash in on the Darnold interception.
Just watch the blocks up front, and then you're going to see the back. He's going to wind it all the way back. But you watch, they get a great kick out, and then the Tunzel comes down, Larson comes across, Kilgore, and that opens up a huge hole for Kenyon Drake.
Jason Sanders with the extra point. And it's 7-0 Miami. A turnover and a costly one. Miami's first quarter touchdown in the last 8 games. Darnold picked off by the veteran McDonald. And then Kenyon Drake. Quick move, slicing for 6. 112 in the first.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Rich, all last week in the New York media, they talked about the poise and the resiliency of Darnold, what he did early in the game against Detroit and how he finished the game in Detroit.
Yeah, so much was made of that interception on the first play of the game. And I think the fact that everyone was so positive when he came to the sidelines, his coach, the coordinator, he said even Spencer Long, the center, said to him, hey, relax and let the game come to you. And he said that really meant a lot to him, and it really calmed him down. I thought he played some of his best football after that pick on the first play of the game.
Sanders to kick off for the Miami Dolphins. Deep back Roberts and Trenton Cannon. Roberts out of the end zone. Touchback to the 25. 1st and 10 for Darnold and the Jet offense. Steve Tasker's on the sideline.
Yeah, Kevin, I know that Rich doesn't have much experience with this, but when a quarterback throws an interception, it's interesting to watch how he reacts. And I got to tell you, what they say about Sam Darnold seems to be true. He did not even raise his eyebrows. He walked off the field, got with his offensive coordinator, Jeremy Bates. They sat down along with Josh McCown, and they started looking at the pictures and talking about what happened. And you could not tell if he'd thrown a touchdown or an interception, and now he's back on the field.
Yeah, the ability, Rich, to put adversity behind him was huge.
Yeah, the great ones were able to put a great play behind him as quickly as a poor play and a poor decision, and I think that's a real strength of Sam Darnold's at a young age.
Crowell. And then he is taken down easily by Robert Quinn, the 2-time Pro Bowler, throwing him for a loss of 3 back to the 22.
Well, you look at that backside edge, you're going to see Quinn. He's going to come screaming in here. They want to run the ball on the edges, and that's why early in this game, it's going to be really important that Robert Quinn set the edge alongside Cameron Wake on the opposite side. set the edge and force the Jets to have to run the ball up inside.
With Crowell, second down, 14 low and caught 27-yard line. Alonzo is there. That is grabbed by the former Ohio State quarterback Terrell Pryor with a gain of 5 for the Jets.
And if you're a pass rusher for Miami, it's going to be frustrating early here because, again, the Jets don't want Darnold holding the football. So they're going to help him in any way they can, and that's by running the football in the early downs, the screen game, the quick game. You don't want their rookie quarterback taking 5 steps and 2 or 3 hitches and holding the football back there in the pocket.
First quarter to a close. 6-yard touchdown run by Kenyon Drake of the Dolphins after a McDonald interception for Miami off of Darnold. We start the second quarter, 3rd and 8 for Darnold. You see some of the first quarter numbers right there. The Jets trailing 7-0 early in the game.
And Kevin, you and I were talking during the break. I think Darnold's figuring it out. This defense of Miami a little bit better than the defense he saw last week against Detroit. They've got a better pass rush and a much more talented secondary. And you look at Pro Bowl safety Rashad Jones and their first-round pick Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick in, Crowell in the backfield, 3rd and 8. They're chasing Darnold. He's drilled. Hit high and brought down hard. Jordan Phillips got him. First sack for Miami. Back to the 22. And the punting unit gets out there, loss of 5 on the play.
Well, this is bad football. I mean, this is Robert Quinn, and you got to look at who's blocking him. That's a tight end. That's Eric Tomlinson. That is a mismatch. You've got a tackle over there in Beacham that should be blocking one of the Dolphins' best pass rushers in Robert Quinn. You can't put a tight end on a premier pass rusher.
Lachlan Edwards to punt. Jakeem Grant is back at about the 21, hang of 4 seconds with room to roam and spinning off tackles and finally brought down by Terrence Brooks. 21-yard return with a 58-yard punt. And people affected by Hurricane Florence looking for some help. Text Red Cross to 90999 to donate $10 to American Red Cross Hurricane Relief. Now a little momentum. Playing with the lead is makes things a little bit easier on that offense, doesn't it, Rich?
It allows you to stay with the running game, and there's got to be a commitment to the running game when you have Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake in your backfield.
It's Gore here with the fake. Tannehill running again, repaired knee and all, and he's up near the 45, and he picks up 5 on the play for Miami.
Well, one thing that's very noticeable when you watch the tape from last week, the team speed on offense. You look at Kenyon Drake, Wilson, who came over from Kansas City, Stills, and maybe the fastest of all of them, Jakeem Grant, who had that 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. No one even touched him on that play, but it's very noticeable when you watch this offense operate and function, the team speed that they have on the perimeter.
4 in the secondary and 2nd and 5, and it was a nice stop by Mike Pennell on that defensive line along with Jenkins on Gore, who only picks up a yard. 35-year-old Frank Gore stopped by Pennell, the former Packer.
And Kevin, when you look at that graphic we just put up about the team speed, I mean, they're all sub 4.5 guys.
Right.
You could have a 4x100 relay team with that group. And that helps a guy like Tannehill when you have those kind of weapons around you.
Gore, by the way, now 14 yards away from becoming number 4 all-time, passing former Jet Curtis Martin in all-time rushing in the league. 3rd and 4, Gore is in. Tannehill, good time, low and uncatchable for his crossing tight end, A.J. Derby. He played the most of the tight ends last week. He's been in there a lot. Incomplete pass. 4th down, punting it out there for Miami.
Really good coverage on 3rd down. And you see the man-to-man coverage. There's the strong safety, Jamal Adams. He knows he's got the crosser. He's able to run through the traffic and make this a very difficult throw for Tannehill.
Matt Hawk, second-year punter out of Arizona State, who booted one last time, 63 yards. Send it back to Andre Roberts, who comes over from Atlanta. Fair caught here as he signals forward at about the 16, hang of 4.59. 12:46 first half. 37-yard well-placed punt right there. touchdown run by the Dolphins. They're on top. That's the resume for the Jets in this week 2 so far against Miami.
And they've had terrible starting field position as well. Their own 14 is compared to the Dolphins, who've started at their own 48.
With Fireman Ed leading the Jets cry here in the Meadowlands. 1st and 10, 17 Darnold after the Miami punt. Outside they go. It's Enunwa. He breaks a tackle with McDonald and flies down the sideline. In front of his own bench, he takes it up to the 37. A catch and run of 20 for wide receiver Quincy Enunwa, who missed last year.
We talked about how strong a player he is, Kevin. He's a tough tackle. Just a little bubble screen, and watch him make the first defender miss. TJ McDonald with a stiff arm. He's got great speed. He's a really talented player, and he's a matchup problem. They need to move him around a little bit more in this offense.
Miami in the nickel, 1st and 10. Beaching the block at the left tackle. Darnold, incomplete. Tomlinson, his tight end, was downfield. A couple guys are on him, including Jones.
Let's take a look at the scouting report. You look at the strength of this offense right now. It's the commitment to the running game with two very talented backs in Crowell and Powell. The inexperience at quarterback with Darnold's certainly a weakness at this point. And you look at the strength of that Dolphins defense. It's a secondary. They got a Pro Bowler in Rashad Jones, and Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think, has got a chance to be a Pro Bowler pretty soon. If there's a weakness, it's their linebacker play, not where it needs to be.
Couple tight ends. Powell in the backfield. 2nd down and 10. Bilal Powell digging his way with a tackle made right there by Godshaw. It's a gain of 4 to the 41-yard line of New York.
Well, in order for this Miami defense to play well, it's got to start up front with their front 4. They really set the tone. You talked with Matt Burke, their defensive coordinator, and he says that's the key for us. If they play well, then we as a unit usually play well. And of course, they were really disappointed. And quite frankly, it's a group that underperformed a season ago. They moved on from Ndamukong Suh. But they feel that they have more depth and talent now on that defensive line. Certainly Quinn was a big addition in free agency.
With Powell into this secondary, 3rd down and 6, and a contorted attempt by Enunwa. And it was coverage on the play by Minkah Fitzpatrick, who grew up not far from here. High school player in Jersey City, played at Alabama, 1st-round pick. They like him a lot. He starts and plays a lot for that defense.
I think he's going to be a star. I mean, he is a very talented player. He won the Chuck Bednarik and Jim Thorpe awards last year. Just the 3rd player overall to win both. The other 2 players, Charles Woodson and Patrick Peterson. Pretty good company.
3rd punt and 4 Jets possessions. Lachlan Edwards. Winless day again here at the Meadowlands. He back is Amendola. Fair caught, 17-yard line, hang of 4.59, 42-yarder. Fireman Ed is back. Crowd is fired up with a good group watching today. But the Jets are down 7-zip to Miami. 2nd quarter.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Snickers. You're off your game when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the NFL. And by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network.
Beautiful late summer afternoon in New York. After another punt by the Jets, their 3rd and 4 possessions. Tannehill begins at his 18, 1st and 10. Gore. Not much there. Picking up 3, digging up yards to the 21. We mentioned earlier he is zeroing in on that 4th position all time in NFL rushing. Ahead of him is the Hall of Famer Curtis Martin.
He doesn't look like a 35-year-old back.
No, he doesn't.
Still an explosive power runner with. He's got that squatty, powerful lower body. You see him run right through tackles.
4 in the secondary, 2nd down and 7. Tannehill. Danny Amendola. And then whacked by Jordan Jenkins at about the 26. Nothing to Still so far, their top receiver. That's a gain of 5 right there, Rich, out to the 26-yard line of Miami.
And Amendola's in there to move the chains. He's averaged 10 yards or more per reception in each of the last 3 seasons. Good look at Adam Gase, one of a handful of head coaches in the league that still calls plays.
You like that?
I do. I think he can control the tempo of the game. I think it's what got him the job in the first place, Kevin. Too many coordinators that become head coaches hand over those responsibilities to someone else who's not quite as good at it.
3rd down 2, deep double caught. Nice catch with a great throw. Screen with the hit on Danny Amendola. 14-yard pickup. You can see he's down 40-yard line of Miami.
Well, this is what makes Amendola so good. He knows he's going to take a big hit. You see him working across the field. He's got buster screen, but what he doesn't see is the safety that comes down and hits him right in the chest. But he's somehow able to hold on to the football.
10-year veteran Danny Amendola down. 9:38 in the second. Amendola up, but to the tent for evaluation. Jakeem Grant will take his place. Gore is in the backfield. 5 in the Jets secondary. 1st and 10. Ryan Tannehill outside Grant. You led him in receiving last week, and he has a burst down the sideline after the catch for 10 to midfield. A 1st down for Miami.
Well, this is a really nice job because you're going to see the pressure come off the edge, and so Tannehill does the next best thing. He just throws the ball out to the uncovered receiver. This great anticipation and good alert play by Tannehill, seeing the stinger off the edge.
1st down and 10. Outside here and looking for their number 1 receiver, Kenny Stills. Incomplete. Again, Devontae Parker, who broke a middle finger on his right hand in practice a couple weeks ago, out. Thought maybe he would be activated today. He is not inactive. 2nd and 10 for Tannehill. Four in the Jets secondary. Fake to Gore. Outside they go. The elusive Albert Wilson is picked and grabbed right there. Brought down by Middleton. Gain of 5. Looked like he was going to have a little bit more room. He's been in the Wildcat already today. He's down to the 44.
Well, they throw a bunch of these bubble screens to the receivers on 2nd and long, 3rd and long. It's another way to get the ball in the perimeter quickly. You want to find out if you can tackle on the edges.
Drake is in 3rd and 5. James the block, but up the middle they come. Brandon Copeland. Replacing the concussed Josh Martin. Rocketing up the middle. 3rd sack and a loss on the play. They go back to the 47-yard line, losing 6.
Well, they're going to bring pressure, and this is, you see Copeland. Larson can't get back inside in that A-gap, and Copeland just beats him right to the quarterback. See, they bring 5, and the Dolphins can't handle it. Good rush by Brandon Copeland.
The long snap was a little bit low last time from Denny. Matt Hawk is back there. And deep back is Andre Roberts. Moving into that bright New Jersey sun. At about the 8-yard line, 43-yard punt. 4-3 on the hang. To our CBS studios in James Brown.
Officiating point of emphasis.
Yes, unnecessary roughness was called right here as DeMonte KZ hits Cam Newton. He was ejected from the game. You can see him with the helmet-to-helmet hit. And after that, Cam Newton came back and led this drive on a 5-yard touchdown pass to Jarris Wright. Carolina leads 10-3 in this NFC South matchup.
Back to Kevin Harlan.
Well, guys, we know you can't take aim and you have to see what you hit. And this has been a point of emphasis the entire preseason. Just one helmet-to-helmet hit in week 1 that was called, and we know the helmet should be used strictly for protective purposes only. We don't need to see those type of plays in our game.
2 tight ends with Crowell. From the 8, Darnold. Nice catch. Robbie Anderson. 17-yard reception. They'll put him at about the 25.
Well, it's been a tough start for Sam Darnold. He's been flushed from the pocket. Had to throw the ball away a couple times. He gets fooled on a third down and throws this interception to T.J. McDonald. And then you see the pressure and the sack from Quinn. But this is what this kid does. He just keeps coming back. And we talked about his ability to throw the ball on the move, especially moving to his right. The Jets do a good job changing the launch point with Sam Darnold.
First and 10, Crowell. Tomlinson a block, and then from behind it's Hayes playing with a cast on his hand and a bad finger, and a gain of 2. Does the mobility, or just talked about the mobility of Darnold, that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. I mean, we saw some of it at USC. I just think that you look at this offense, Kevin, they want to run the football. Off of that, they want to have the play action shots and, of course, move him. He's athletic enough to get out on the edges, and, of course, that makes it difficult for defenses to kind of tee off and to know exactly where you're going to be. But I think his feet, when I studied him in college and I looked at him through the preseason and last week, he's got great feet and escapability, and that's something that I'd like to see with any quarterback.
4 defensive backs, 2nd down and 8. Darnold on the move and on the mark. Enunwa, boy, he was hit hard by Alonso. He's got a first down reception. It is a pickup of 12 to the 39-yard line of the Jets.
And we're talking about the feet. Just watch him. He gets back. He sets his feet. Now him slide. He's keeping the ball in the throwing position. His eyes down the field. And that's what's impressive about Darnold. No limitations with the playbook. He's got the whole game plan. A terrific job absorbing this system.
What do you think about that hit by Alonso, by the way, right there?
Well, it was questionable.
Maybe the shoulder. 1st and 10. Timeout, Jets. Watch that one more time. They showed it here, and there's a lot of boos, and that's why we want to revisit it just to see.
Well, it's not just the helmet. It's the shoulder pads or the forearm to the head. And that one could have been a knockout shot for Quincy Enunwa. Yeah, well, the problem is, Kevin, sometimes you get a receiver and he's trying to protect himself. What does he do at the last minute? He lowers his head. And it's tough for a player like Kiko Alonso to anticipate that a receiver is going to try and lower his head or his body to protect himself.
No word yet on Amendola. We're still waiting from the sideline of the Miami Dolphins. He took a hit. There's Enunwa, who missed last season with neck surgery. Missed all of last year. Led the Jets in receiving in 2016 with 58 catches and just under 900 yards. There's Amendola, and we'll try to get a follow-up with Steve on his situation. 2 tight ends, 1st and 10.
Ready.
After the Jets timeout. Darnold, good move to fake out Quinn, and he's got another receiver, and again it's Anderson. Alonso there, close to a first down. Oh, is there a fumble on the play? They're digging it out. And it is a fumble. Anderson coughs it up, and a second turnover by the Jets. Recovered, as you can see right there, by Laquan McMillan, the linebacker.
And keep an eye on Kiko Alonso. Robbie Anderson never feels him coming from behind. He puts a big lick on Anderson, and you see that ball come out of his right arm. Good alert play by McMillan. But it all starts with a big hit from Kiko Alonso. Couple turnovers already from this Miami defense, and that was a bit of an issue a season ago. It's been a point of emphasis, ball extraction. They've already got 2 takeaways here in the first half.
And Rich in their own territory too.
Good offenses, Kevin, are able to capitalize on the negative plays and the field position. And come away with points on this drive. And this is you look at Adam Gase, this is typically a point in the game and a part of the field where coordinators will take a shot. after a sudden change of possession.
They're going to take a look. Scoring plays, change of possession, always reviewed. And Brad Allen will go and talk with New York and take a look at the monitor.
Well, the question is, does he have possession before the ball is knocked out? And then
we'll find out if it was a turnover. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this from AARP. They do call it a turnover. Brad Allen has just clarified it. Gene Steratore is in our studios, NFL rules analyst. What do you think, Gene?
Looks to me like possession, 2 feet, and definitely a football move prior to that ball coming out. I think it's a really good call by the officials of the catch fumble. Looks like recovered by Miami.
Keywords there, football move. Gene, thank you. Former Super Bowl referee Gene Steratore. Here they come the other way with Grant. Ooh, that was a high hit and screen, leveled it, and there goes a flag. With a gain of 5 right there to the 44-yard line of Miami. After the fumble by Anderson gives it to the Dolphins.
I'm going to see
personal
Grant
foul, grasping the face mask, defense number
There's
41.
the face mask grab
15-yard penalty,
screen.
automatic.
He's just trying to get any part of his body, and unfortunately he just reaches out with that left hand and grabs a hold of Jakeem Grant's face mask. Jakeem Grant has rare and unusual speed. We saw those 40 times a few moments ago. He's sub 4.4, and he's a guy that's gotten better as a route runner. You talk to this coaching staff, you talk to Tannehill, they really like how Jakeem Grant has become a more effective and more consistent route runner, and that's why you're going to probably see more of him this year on offense.
Danny Amendola is in the game for Miami. He just came off the bench in on this possession. They got this on the fumble by Anderson after the reception. So 2 Jet turnovers. 6-yard touchdown run by Drake after the interception thrown by quarterback Sam Darnold. And here they are, 1st and 10 with the penalty in tow to the 29-yard line. 4 in the secondary. Tannehill, good strike on the cross. And look at the run here by Albert Wilson, and that is a touchdown! What a move! Flies for 29.
Well, you're just going to look at Wilson. He's right here, and all he's going to do is just run a little short crossing route. But here's where you get a sense for the speed. And I think it's important not to underestimate Albert Wilson's speed, but in the case of Buster Skrine, not to overestimate your own speed. That's where I think the Dolphins are going to be better this year. The speed that they have on offense.
Sanders with the extra point. Wilson played 4 years with the Chiefs, was free. They signed the 5'9" receiver out of Georgia State with a terrific move in the offseason, and he has put his fingerprints on this offense. 14-0 Miami. Back in 30 seconds after this from FanDuel. 29-yard touchdown pass, a catch and run at 29 for Albert Wilson from Tannehill, and 2 turnovers by the Jets, and 14 points off those turnovers by Miami.
And that's how they're going to have to win, right? Takeaways on defense, big plays in the kicking game. We saw that last week with this Miami team. Their ability to run the football and capitalize on those takeaways from their defense.
Roberts will leave it in the end zone. Look at Albert Wilson, who's from Port St. Lucie, Florida, high school quarterback, and he was terrific. Now Darnold is in a hole, Rich, down 14-zip. He's thrown a pick. We're late in the first half.
And this is a key possession for the Jets and for Sam Darnold. Kevin, they can't afford to fall behind big in games, because then they become one-dimensional. They need to have that balance. They need to be able to run the football successfully against this Miami defense. If it turns into a passing game, that doesn't serve the Jets well. The Dolphins have 2 really good edge rushers in Cameron Wake and Robert Quinn, and that could make things very difficult on Darnold.
Powell is in with the 1st and 10. Darnold, time, And incomplete. Looking for Terrell Pryor. Good coverage across the way by the Dolphins secondary, and we know that is a strength. And over there was McCain.
Well, just watch. They're going to double team both of these defensive ends, and that's important. You see the back, the tight ends.
Right.
2 doubles. So what they do is they max protect, and they give their quarterback a chance to set his feet and push the ball down the field outside the numbers. It's the kind of attention that you give the Dolphins because of their edge rushers.
Second down and 10, fake to Powell. Outside they go here. Not a lot of room out there for Curse. Reading it well was the Alabama rookie, Minkah Fitzpatrick. There is no gain on the play, and they stay at the 25.
Well, Fitzpatrick is an excellent tackler. That was something that was very obvious when he came out in the draft, but even last week against the Titans, he made a number of big stops. Doesn't miss many tackles. So athletic, so versatile. He played corner at Alabama. He played the nickel slot. He played safety. He can play at all 3 levels of that defense for the Dolphins.
The tight end Sterling is out of the game, head injury. 3rd and 11. 1 tight end here. There's Fitzpatrick. Darnold moving up. Oh, from behind. They jump and they nail him. Coming through was Quinn. Second sack. He's doused. He's taken down back at the 18-yard line. Robert Quinn, the 2-time Pro Bowler who had the best game on the line last week, coming up with big plays today.
Well, he's going to start inside, and this guy's the real deal. I mean, he is a talented player. He was a great addition in free agency. Got to respect him. You look at Cameron Wake and Robert Quinn. Between them, they have over 150 career sacks.
Edwards to punt, and Jakeem Grant is back to the 23. Hang of 4-6. He gets the block, and he's on the move, and it's a nice tackling there on the play by Middleton. Special teams, 15-yard return, 59-yard punt. Tannehill from his own 38 with a 2-touchdown lead will take it. Saturday, the best game from the best conference, the SEC on CBS. Features Texas A&M taking on the #1 team in the country, Alabama, looking to keep their 20-game home winning streak alive. The day kicks off with college football today, bringing you all the latest news and highlights beginning at 3 Eastern, right here on CBS. Kevin Harlan, along with Rich Gannon, Steve Tasker on our sideline.
Ryan Tannehill, an A&M alum. It's funny to think of Tannehill played some receiver in college at A&M before making the switch to quarterback for Mike Sherman.
Caught 100.
Drake, an Alabama guy.
Caught 112 passes there. 1st and 10. Out of the backfield they go. Caught by Wilson. Wrestled out of bounds by Tremaine Johnson with a gain of 3 up to the 41-yard line.
I've been impressed with what I've seen from Tannehill so far, Kevin. Just in visiting with Adam Gase last night, he said there's a different feel with Tannehill back under center. I think there's a great comfort for Adam Gase, the play caller, certainly for this team, because they know what to expect and how he operates in critical situations.
Nickel secondary. Here comes Wilson. 2nd and 7. Chased and then shoved out of bounds on the far side by Leonard Williams. He played some inside backer last week defensively against Detroit. There's a gain of 5. He's out to the 46. We're at the 2-minute warning with 1:57 to go. Touchdown run by Drake is 6. Touchdown reception, catch and run by Wilson.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. And by AARP. Take on today with AARP. Real possibilities.
Well, the Jets fans are awful excited coming into this one, their home opener, and they've been disappointed so far with an interception off Darnold and a turnover and trailing 14-0.
I think it's important not to overreact. I mean, Sam Darnold just starting his 2nd game. There are going to be peaks and valleys. There's going to be adversity along the way. The bottom line is they've got to find a way to jumpstart their offense. They've been anemic here in the first half.
3 turnovers, 3rd down and 2. Here comes Tannehill. And there goes the reception, and it's made by Kenny Stills. Number 1 receiver. Had a couple touchdown receptions last week against Tennessee. Pick up a 4 right there on a first down.
This is what I wanted to see from Tannehill last week and again this week. You see the movement and mobility. You know, there's so much made of that knee injury. You see the brace on the left knee, but I think he's moved really well in the pocket. Remember now, before that injury, here's a guy that started 77 consecutive games for the Dolphins and threw for more than 4,000 yards in back-to-back seasons.
First and 10 throw right here, right on the money, and caught by Stills. Ushered out of bounds by the covering Claiborne. Gain of 13. It is another first down for Miami, and again the 3 timeouts. The Verizon halftime report being put together for you. JB, Phil, Nate, Boomer, and Coach Cowers. Scores, highlights, and news from this week 2 in the NFL. All next in the Verizon halftime report. What's it like with a quarterback playing with a bulky brace like that, Rich, on your knee?
Well, it's uncomfortable, especially, Kevin, the first season that you wear it, you know, and that's a different brace than he's had in the past. And that's, I would say that's a big one. You know, some of them are a little bit more streamlined, but that is a very protective brace that we see on the left knee. And it's the plant leg of Ryan Tannehill. And it makes it, what happens is over the course of the game, sometimes it can cut off some circulation if you're having to move a little bit. You see the sock that's ripped there?
Yes.
That came on the sack earlier in the first quarter, but I can remember taking that brace off after games and my left knee being swollen. You know, you have an ACL surgery and you break up a lot of scar tissue, and it can be very painful.
Drake just caught one for 4. Williamson ushers him out of bounds. 2nd and 6, effectively stopping the clock with 1:16. 2nd and 6. Tannehill has been very accurate today. Incomplete as it comes out of my mouth. Grant, low. Incomplete throw by Ryan Tannehill.
Well, the good news for Tannehill is I think the Dolphins have more depth and talent at the wide receiver position this year. I know that Tannehill and Adam Gase are excited about this group. They added Amendola and Wilson. I mentioned I don't want to say the emergence of Jakeem Grant, but he's really developed into a very, very consistent route runner. They feel good about that. And of course, Kenny Stills is a home run threat. And when they get Devontae Parker back, I think this is a group that has a chance to be very special.
5 defensive backs, 3rd and 6 for Tannehill. Moves up and down he goes. Flag thrown. Williamson with the hit. Williams is right there. And a flag. Ball right now with the 38. And it would be a loss on the 4th sack of 5 yards. Let's see what this flag is all about with our clock at 1:06 here in the 2nd quarter. 2 Jet turnovers, 14 Miami points, the results.
Please reset the game clock to 1:07. It was holding defense number 20. That's a 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
There is no number 20, at least on defense. Crowell was not out there.
And you see the frustration from Todd Bowles, who's handed over the play calling duties to his defensive coordinator, Casey Rogers.
And they had the 5 interceptions last week against the Lions.
And you see the hold right here. He's got the shirt of Amendola. And of course, Claiborne doesn't let go soon enough.
Again, Miami 3 timeouts. Threatening again. First down and 10. 7th play right here. Drake in the backfield. Kenyon Drake will wheel his way to the 19. Hit on the play by Claiborne and others. Also Middleton. A nice weaving run of 9. He got it down to the 19-yard line. Verizon halftime next. JB and Company, the Verizon halftime report from our CBS studios in New York. Clock is ticking. Now stopped at 46 seconds with a look at Darnold. Timeout taken by Miami. 2 timeouts apiece remaining with a look at Adam Gase. And the relationship, you touched on this before, the relationship with Gase and Tannehill is pretty strong.
Well, look, I think there's a trust factor there that's important. I just think that the leadership and the toughness and the productivity that Tannehill brings to the mix is important. And I just think that it's helped everybody, just getting a healthy Ryan Tannehill back. And you look at situational football, Kevin, you're up 14-0. You're on the road. You've got 48 seconds left. And you just got to be smart in this situation. You can't take a sack. Obviously, turnovers, penalties in this part of the field. Throwing the ball away, not a bad play on 2nd and 1. Well, you're in field goal range. You just got to be smart here. You're playing with house money.
2nd down, 19-yard line. Tannehill, 11 of 14 to the end zone.
Great protection.
Touchdown. The tight end, A.J. Derby. 19-yard throw. And the 2nd touchdown pass today for Miami quarterback Ryan Tannehill.
Well, this starts with great pass protection. Tannehill has a ton of time. And now watch A.J. Derby. He's just going to work down the field. And he's smart enough to know that he's got to be able to cross the face of the near safety. Now, once he does that, he begins to flatten and come back at a friendly angle to the quarterback. A.J. Derby, a former quarterback in college at Iowa, before transferring to Arkansas. Yeah, you talked last week, Kevin. I worked out with A.J. Derby. He was one of the guys that I worked out in the summertime. He was a quarterback when I got him, and he became just like Max Williams. He became a tight end.
What does that say about your teaching?
I tell you what it tells you is I can take a really good quarterback and make him a really good tight end if you give me a couple days.
His dad, John Derby, played linebacker for the Detroit Lions in the early 90s for a year, trying to see if he actually caught the ball. He was a terrific high school basketball player in Iowa City High School in Iowa City, Iowa. Like you said, a former quarterback too. Yeah, it was a good adjustment. You're right. Tannehill right there. Here's the extra point, away and through.
Missed it.
Oh, Sanders did not get it. Excuse me. Sanders missing the PAT. 3 of 3 last week. Missing right there. So it stays 20-0 Miami. With 2 touchdown passes by Ryan Tannehill and a 6-yard touchdown run by Drake. 2 turnovers by the Jets, fueling some of those scores.
I'm not a kicker, but I did it in high school. Watch his left foot, his plant foot. Look how close his plant foot is to the football, and actually in front of the football. And I think what happens, he gets jammed. He's too tight. He pushes that one to the right. Nonetheless, a good drive before the half from that Miami offense. Protection was absolutely outstanding. Tannehill had tons of time to sit back there in the pocket and work through his progressions and work all the way back across the field to find his tight end, A.J. Derby.
Sanders had just missed that extra point. Will be booting it here. They'll leave it in the end zone. So what can the Jets do right here, Rich? They've got 42 seconds left. They've got 2 timeouts.
Well, I think they'll be smart here with their quarterback, Kevin. I think they'll run the ball and go into halftime and trying to make some adjustments. And I think the adjustments that you have to make are that maybe you have to be a little bit more aggressive on 1st down, but you can't abandon the game plan. They need to be able to come out and continue to lean on the running game, the play action game. But look, they're going to have some success early in the 3rd quarter because they can't afford to fall behind by another score.
The Jets, who have not run a play in Dolphin territory, their deepest advancement has been their own 49. Powell in the backfield, 1st and 10, 2 timeouts. Darnold slings one, caught by Pryor. Look at him go into the secondary. Brought down by Jones. A terrific catch and run. Minkah Fitzpatrick is down. It's good for 44 yards, and they take it to the 31 of Miami with 29 seconds to go.
Boy, you just watch the seize part on this one. You're going to see there's the receiver, but watch the reaction from the underneath coverage. I mean, this just opens up. This is a huge, huge hole for the quarterback in the middle of the field, and a good throw by Sam Darnold to Terrell Pryor. Now all of a sudden you find yourself with an opportunity to come away with some points before the half.
Fitzpatrick walked off, by the way, under his own power, so he is off the field right now. They put a second on the clock, 30 seconds, and a timeout remaining for the Jets.
What I like about the conversation that we had with Jeremy Bates, the offensive coordinator, on Friday, he said we're going to be aggressive even with our rookie quarterback. We're not going to play or coach with a conservative mentality. That's a good example of it right there, down 20 before the half with less than 40 seconds to go.
Pryor looked good on that catch and run, especially coming off ankle surgery back in June. 1st and 10. Powell was in. Darnold. Ooh, is right. He was looking for Robbie Anderson. Yep, and he was covered heavily on the play by Bobby McCain.
This is not a good decision by Darnold. He just throws this one up. It's a good adjustment by Robbie Anderson, knocking the ball away from Bobby McCain, who may have had an interception.
They only threw at Anderson one time last week, and it was effective. A 41-yard touchdown reception against Detroit.
Well, he can take the top off the defense. I mean, he's got that he's got a seventh gear when that ball's in the air.
Darnold 2nd down and 10. Looking for a block, and he got it from Carpenter. Down the sideline, he's got his receiver. 15-yard line. Grabbed on the play by the tight end, Chris Herndon, a rookie out of Miami, and a 17-yard pickup. They get down to the 14-yard line.
We talk about the scramble drill. This is a really good adjustment at the top of your screen off of the scramble. Just watch right here. He's going to start working up the field, and then he's going to put his foot in the ground and come back when he sees Darnold get outside the pocket. Good adjustment on the fly by Chris Herndon.
And another good throw by Darnold, who is at Pryor for a 44-yard catch and run. 17 yards right there to Herndon. Timeouts, none left for the Jets. They use their last 16 seconds with a 1st and 10 from the Dolphin 14. You look at Powell. Wide open, and Nunwa a little too strong. And he was wide open, incomplete, out of bounds.
But he saw him late, Kevin. He already made up his mind to throw the football away. As it just turns out somehow the Dolphins bust coverage, and Nunwa is wide open in the back of the end zone. But at that point, Darnold had already made up his mind to throw that one away. Look, if you get fooled, that's the right decision. With no timeouts inside of 15 seconds.
Fitzpatrick is back in the secondary for Miami. 2nd down and 10.
Comes the blitz. Good adjustment.
Got him at the 1. Hold on to the ball, and he gets back up as Herndon tries to dig in.
That'll be the end of the half.
Yep, zeros on the clock. And Miami holds. And the Jets could not cash in. They got as far as the 1.
Great hit. And that's really what does it. I mean, it was a good alert play by the quarterback, but a terrific hit by the Pro Bowl safety Rashad Jones, who had 2 picks last week against the Titans. He puts a lick on Chris Herndon and knocks the ball out.
Yeah, and I don't even know it was a catch. You're right, Jones delivered it right there. We're at halftime. 2 touchdown passes by Tannehill. A 6-yard touchdown run by Drake. 2 turnovers by the Jets. The question coming into today, is Sam Darnold for real? He looked pretty good on that drive, though, Rich.
Made some big throws, Kevin. They're going to have to crank things up to a respectable level here in the second half, and it'll start with more throws from Darnold on the early downs.
Halftime next after these first half highlights from Verizon and a word from your local CBS station. A first half shutout by the Miami Dolphins over the New York Jets as we take a look at the first half highlight presented by DirecTV. Dolphin quarterback Ryan Tannehill to his tight end A.J. Derby. 19-yard touchdown pass, the second of 2. And Miami's got the lead. Kevin Harlan alongside the NFL MVP Rich Gannon. So what about the Jets in the second half?
Well, first of all, you know, you look at Tannehill, he had about 5 seconds, Kevin, to set his feet back there and make that throw. You look at what the Jets have to do in the second half. They had a disappointing first half of football. The 2 turnovers resulted in 14 points for the Dolphins. they weren't able to run the football. I don't think they can abandon the run down 20. You look at what they did, 8 carries for 17 yards. They got to crank up the running game, and they've got to help their young quarterback. Somebody's got to be able to make some plays, and they've not done a good job defeating man-to-man coverage. Somebody's got to win out on the edges.
2 turnovers, costly, 14 points by Miami off of that. And here's our second half kickoff. And Roberts a little fly over his head. Touchback to the 25 into the sideline, and Steve Tasker.
Yeah, I spoke to Todd Bowles as he came off the field. Obviously not a happy camper. He said, listen, we got to run the football if we're going to win this game. That's been the issue. Plus the turnovers leading directly to points was enormous, and field position as well. So all the usual suspects for the Jets conspiring against them. I talked to Adam Gase as he came out of the locker room. He just said, I told all my guys we've got to play a better half in this one than we did in the first one. You get the idea that the Dolphins are trying to change this culture, get back in the playoffs, and they want to really pour it on in this second half. That's the vibe I got from Adam Gase.
That's the vibe you need. I mean, you got to put the pedal to the metal. Keep the pressure on this young quarterback.
Crowell with the 9th run today by the New York offense. And he goes up into the grasp of T.J. McDonald. Running for 10, first down to the 35-yard line of New York with a look at Sam Darnold in that first half, 13-21 with a pick.
Yeah, but keep in mind now, you just go back a week. The Jets scored 31 unanswered points in a span of 9 minutes in the third quarter last Monday night against Detroit. Now, obviously, defense was a big part of it with 5 interceptions, but it can happen. But it's got to start, as Steve said, by running the football successfully on the early downs.
He slipped there, and then Spence came through, throwing him for a loss of 5. Kind of landed on him back at about the 30-yard line. Crowell going backwards.
Well, good look at Akeem Spence. You see him beat the tight ends. These tight ends for the Jets have struggled a little bit blocking the edges. And Miami has talked all week about setting the edge defensively and forcing both of these backs, Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell, to have to run up inside in those A and B gaps.
Rondon caught a couple of passes on that last drive. The tight end in motion. Here they come after the. Here comes Tomlinson. He's got a blocker ahead. That's Shell. And he hurdles a defender, and down the sideline he goes. Into Dolphin territory, near the 46. A run at 24 after a little short catch and a first down.
Well, they're going to turn the rush go, and then you see the center and the right tackle. They're going to get out in front of this. You look at Long and Shell, and they've got a lot of green grass. Good looking design and a good result. As you see Eric Tomlinson trying to finish there on the boundary.
Maybe that last drive at the end of the first half, Rich, gives them, you're talking about, some momentum here into the second.
Take the edge off of this pass rush. One way to do that is to mix in a couple screens.
With Crowell into the nickel, 1st and 10. Darnold deep. Got him. Caught by Anunwa. Thrown out of bounds by McCain. 17-yard reception to the Dolphin 29-yard line.
We talked about getting Quincy Anunwa the football. Watch this adjustment. He works back up inside. Now he flattens. He takes a friendly angle to the boundary and gives Darnold an opportunity to make a play against Bobby McCain. Look at Darnold step up and help the tackle. One thing, Darnold's got a good sense. He's got a good awareness in the pocket for pressure.
Jordan Phillips down and being assisted to at midfield. So on the drive, 10-yard run by Crowell. 29-yard catch and run Tomlinson. Anunwa lassos one for 17. That's the way the Jets begin the second half after a good-looking end of the first half, which got them as far as the 1. And by the way, they did call that a reception by Herndon at the 1, but they were out of timeouts and they were out of time. So there's an injury timeout. We will step aside from the Meadowlands at 12:53 in the third. Jordan Phillips got off under his own power. They're looking at his right knee. He is out right now.
You look at that graphic there. The last thing you want to do is allow a team that's down 20 to gain some momentum coming out of the half. It's a problem a season ago for Miami.
Crowell in the backfield, 5 in the secondary, 1st and 10. Crowell Godchaux from behind and limits him to a gain of 1 to the 18.
Well, it's been a struggle for Isaiah Crowell and the Jets rushing attack. It was such a big part of their success a week ago. They had so much success running the ball on first down. Not so much today.
You talked about it, the 31 points they got in the third quarter last week. Most of any team in any game in the third since 1950. Second down 9. Darnold. One drive throw incomplete, and unable to get it is Herndon.
What happens is the tight end stops. Watch Darnold. He's anticipating that Herndon's going to keep going, and Herndon kind of changes speeds. He's in between whether to sit down in the hole or keep running, and that's why they missed that easy throw. Kevin, we talked to Dolphins defensive coordinator Matt Burke last night. He said if we can stop Crowell and Powell and make this rookie quarterback throw the ball a bunch, that's going to give us the best chance of winning it. So far, so good on the early downs.
Powell in, 5 in the secondary, third down 9. And he's got him. What a catch by Powell. Touchdown, Jets. Flag at the 11. It's against Miami. 28-yard touchdown reception. Powell with a great move after the catch.
Illegal contact, number 47 defense. That penalty declined. The result of the play is a touchdown.
Terrific reception.
Well, this is the matchup that they want. They want to get the back. He's just going to run the angle route. You see Bilal Powell, he's matched up in man-to-man coverage on McMillan. He beats him across the face, and now that's a tough tackle for Rashad Jones. But again, this is a game of matchups, and Powell matched up on the linebacker McMillan is a winner for the Jets.
Bilal Powell. Let's see if he got across that goal line. He didn't catch a touchdown a year ago out of the backfield. They are continuing to review. They confirm it. He was an offensive player from Lake Gibson High School in Lake Gibson, Florida. And a good one. And that extra point is no good. Myers with the miss. Each kicker has missed a PAT. Darnold with a touchdown pass right here. The shutout gone by the Dolphins. The Jets heard from.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. NFL Sunday Ticket on DirecTV. And by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you.
Rich, the crowd is back into it with that touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to his running back Powell, who made a terrific catch and an equally as good run after the reception.
Well, they needed something positive to happen after getting shut out in the first half, and it was a good way to start the second half for the Jets on offense.
Myers the kick. Grant will bring it out. Had the kickoff return of 102 last week, and here he goes, slipping out of one grasp in another. And he drives near the 30-yard line. Return of 34, Darnold on that last drive.
Really impressive. Gets it started with the screen pass, and of course his movement and mobility in the pocket. Finds a Nunwa. Just think that he gained some confidence. That drive before the half I thought was significant. We talk about matchups. Getting the running back on the linebacker, and you see Darnold, he's been spending a lot of time on the sidelines with his mentor, Josh McCown, the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator. You give him a lot of information.
Oh, look at that. Ball is loose. Jenkins was on him. Tannehill was back. Fumble recovered by the New York Jets. Oh, has this game turned. And recovered, it looked like, by Jordan Jenkins, who got right up with his rush into the Miami quarterback, Ryan Tannehill.
I think Tannehill gets surprised by Jenkins. I think Jordan Jenkins gets on him really quickly, and then Tannehill kind of loses the grip. He's trying to decide whether to throw it away, and before he can do that, that ball simply slips out of his right hand. Look, he's trying to get rid of it. He just loses the grip, and then a good alert play by the linebacker, Jordan Jenkins, and a huge turnover for the Jets.
The Jets only had one third-quarter sack last season. They come up with a huge one right there and a fumble out the play, and Jenkins vacuums it in, and Tannehill turns it over. And now Darnold and the offense at the 12 of Miami.
And Kevin, I mentioned to you the third quarter, how sweet it's been for the Jets so far this season. 31 unanswered points in the span of 9 minutes last Monday night against the Lions.
Crowell in the backfield. 1st and 10 for Darnold to the end zone. Picked off, but was he in? Picked off on the play by Xavier Howard. A nice interception by him. Back of the end zone.
And the problem here is that the receiver, Terrell Pryor, never finds the ball. He's jostling with the corner in the back of the end zone, and he doesn't find the ball. Boy, that is a huge mistake. I think he gets both feet in bounds. I think he's got the right foot. He taps the left foot. And that is a huge play for Howard and the Dolphins.
Second interception thrown by rookie quarterback Sam Darnold. Howard, who had 4 picks a year ago, including 2 in one game against Tom Brady on a Monday down in Florida, comes up with a big one right there, an end zone interception.
Boy, great catch in the back of the end zone.
Sure
great
was.
Concentration to be able to get that second foot in bounds. Look at that, the first red zone takeaway in their last 20 games.
He has had a great training camp and preseason. The problem, they tell us, is that he's not translated that into games. Well, right there, the translation was not lost. Perfect play, end zone interception, and the touchback to the 20-yard line, where Miami will have it 1st down and 10. And of course, with every turnover, they review.
This is, I think, an area where you can already see the improvement from this Miami defense from a season ago. They took the ball away last week at home against the Titans. And again, 3 takeaways already today from this Miami defense.
Further review, 11:33 in the third. They've reviewed it. It will be an interception. Gene Steratore, NFL rules analyst in our studios. What'd you see?
Tight play, ruling on the field interception. It's a tight one to overturn. What we're looking at is that right foot when the interception begins. The left foot's in. It's the matter of whether that ball was possessed when the right foot was down the back foot, which is the one we usually look at first, naturally. The ruling on the field interception stands is a good call.
Gene, thank you. From the 20 with the touchback, Drake in the backfield, 1st and 10, Tannehill. Kenyon Drake. And he was stuck inside, but Darren Lee, who had the 2 interceptions a week ago in Detroit, it's a gain of 4, Rich, up to the 24-yard line.
Boy, Tannehill and the Dolphins dodged a bullet there big time. And Tannehill may want to go buy his buddy Xavier Howard a beer after the game. That was a big takeaway in the red zone.
Second down and 6 with the Jets in the nickel.
Miami needs to be able to run the ball here, Kevin, in the third quarter. They can't get away. They need to stay committed to the running game.
Drake is back there, 2nd and 6. He'll get the call here, getting the block from his tight end, and then he was brought down by Leonard Williams. A gain of 2 on the play, up to the 26-yard line.
You know, if there's a knock on this Miami offense, it's at times they abandon the run game too quickly when you study them a year ago. They need to stay committed to the running game. They had the fewest rushing attempts of any team in the NFL last year, 360.
And in Drake Rich, they've got the number 2 rusher in the NFL. If you go back to last year, last 4 games, and the game played already this season. He's been good lately. 3rd and 4. A lot of noise inside the Meadowlands. Underneath, Drake, and runs out of bounds, has the first down. He slipped under the grasp of Williamson. It's a catch and run at 10 on 3rd and 4. They'll place him at the Miami 35.
We've been talking a lot about Drake as the running back, but very good in the passing game as well, and a good throw by Tannehill getting him into the transition of the run, but Tannehill takes a lick. But that's taking advantage of matchups, getting these running backs out in space against the Jet linebackers.
Still the nickel, 1st and 10. Pitch to Drake. Patiently watching his way up to about the 40-yard line, and there's Leonard Williams making the stop. He's allowing just a gain of 4 in the play as he pursues the running back from behind to the 40-yard line.
Well, I thought a real positive last week was the Dolphins' ability to run the football on 1st down against the Titans. They had 19 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown, and that's how you do it. Run the football. Make this tire this Jets defensive line out.
Gore in, 2nd down, 6. Gore wrapped up as he hit the line by the rookie, undrafted out of Washington State, Frankie Louvu. It is a gain of 5. They'll be up to the 45.
And there's a guy that can wear out a defense. I mean, he gets yards on context with his leg strength and his desire not to go down.
6 yards away from passing Curtis Martin. 3rd down and 1 to the side, incomplete. Overshooting the intended receiver Wilson. Pressure by Williams. Pressure by Williamson. And Anderson, boy, they were all right up there inside that pocket going to Tannehill.
And a good look at Tremaine Johnson in coverage, and what a difference he makes. You know, that allows them to do so many different things with their coverage scheme because you've got an elite corner that can play press man-to-man coverage.
Hawk to punt. Roberts is deep back for the Jets. Roberts wants the fair catch. Allotted that back at the 7. Hang a 4-5-3, 47-yard punt. Darnold back out there trailing 20-6 in the 3rd on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Sonic. This is how you Sonic. And by FedEx. Possibilities. What we deliver by delivering.
Beautiful day, just shy of the mid-80s, and the wind is negligible here inside MetLife Stadium. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Steve Tasker on the sideline. You can see where the Jets have started on average today at their 25, now at their 7.
Red 80.
Powell in the backfield, 1st and 10, he gets the call. By the way, Jordan Phillips is back in that defensive line for Miami. It's a gain of 2. The tackle there by Branch.
Well, the Jets have missed some opportunities. They had a good look at it right here before the half. Chris Herndon gets tackled at the 1 as time expires. They get a big turnover, and then on the very next play, Sam Darnold serves up an interception in the back of the end zone to Xavier Howard. And you look at the mistakes that they've made on offense. 3 turnovers, including 2 interceptions from Darnold.
4 in the secondary, 2nd down and 8. Darnold. Good block by Shell. Good catch by Enunwa. To the 30-yard line. Dragged down from behind by McMillan. 21-yard strike and a 1st down to the 30-yard line for the Jets.
Well, I've been talking about Quincy Enunwa for a couple weeks now, and the The more I study tape of him, the more I'm impressed. He goes up and gets that ball. He missed all of last season with the neck injury. We talked about his physical makeup. This is an unusual player. He is a beast in the middle of the field.
Powell in the backfield. First and 10. Powell. And they roll over right there. McMillan, who made his NFL debut last week, no gain on the play. They stay at the 30.
Well, even though they haven't had a lot of success running the football, they're staying after it, and it's really helping Darnold with the play action. A lot of the big throws have come off of play action.
8 possessions for the Jets today. 4 punts, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown pass, 1 fumble. They go to the nickel with Fitzpatrick in for Miami's D. 2nd down and 10. Being chased by Taylor. Finds the receiver and he drops it. That was the rookie tight end, Chris Herndon.
Well, this is what you get with Darnold. We talked about his feet, his ability to escape pressure, keep the ball in a throwing position, and make good, accurate throws down the field, regardless of whether he's going to his right or his left. And that'll make you sick if you're Chris Herndon in that film room tomorrow. That is a play you have to make.
On that drive right before halftime, Richie had a couple receptions, one of 17, one of 13. He was very impressive right before the first half ended.
I'm not getting the ball. They just got it off.
3rd down and 10. He's got the open Powell. Kiko Alonso makes the grab shy of the first down. 37-yard line, picks up 7 on 3rd and 10. Here comes the punting unit for the Jets. 6 to play, clock ticking in the 3rd.
We just talked about missed opportunities. That was a big one there on 2nd and 10. The drop from Chris Herndon absolutely killed that drive.
Lachlan Edwards is back to punt, number 3 last year in the league, and punts inside the 20. The speed merchant Grant awaits at about the 13.
I'd be careful kicking the ball to him.
Yeah.
Talk about the importance of directional kicking. They got part of it, I guess.
At the 8-yard line, here comes Grant. Makes one miss. The second one does not. 10-yard return. 54-yard punt to James Brown in New York.
Drama is good for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, I'll tell you, back and forth right here. They're going to come back in this 7-play, 75-yard drive. James Conner, 1 yard out to tie the game 28-28. Ben Roethlisberger already thrown the ball 41 times in this game. 7 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter.
Coach Kyra says they thrive on drama. Back to Kevin Harlan.
That is a beauty. Kansas City led that game 21-0 at one time.
I know, but Pittsburgh's tough at home. And James Conner is a really good back, Kevin. You and I got a chance to spend some time with him a season ago. With an incredible story. He had cancer. He battled back. He had an incredible career at the University of Pittsburgh, and he's really taken advantage of the opportunity that he has in Le'Veon Bell's absence.
He was the ACC Offensive Player of the Year at Pitt, making a difference. Bell continues his holdout. Drake is in the backfield for quarterback Ryan Tannehill. First-round pick 7 years ago out of Texas A&M with a 1st and 10. Danny Amendola. Caught from behind by Middleton with a gain of 5, and he'll take it up to the 22.
That's nothing more than a first down run. They get in those 3-by-1 formations and just throw these little bubble screens. They do a good job blocking in front of the receiver, and it's a good way to start a drive. High completion throw from Tannehill to Amendola on first down.
Great work habits by Amendola. Whole receiving room is different, they say, with him there. 2nd down and 5. Drake. Oh, they love the Drake. Out of bounds he goes, chased by Middleton. Runs out of room, takes it for 11. captures a first down for the Dolphins near the 33.
Well, we've been talking about the importance of the running game. Last season, they were 5-1 when they rushed for 100 yards and just 1-8 when they didn't. And since Adam Gase took over as the head coach of the Dolphins, they're 12-2 when they rushed for 100 yards. I talked about their tendency to get away from the running game sometimes when they either fall behind or they have a lead.
Well, that's not a good sign if you're a Dolphin fan. We'll try to get an update right there. Gore is in, 1st and 10. It's Frank Gore digging his way, 41-yard line, brought down by Adams, picks up 8. And he's got the number 4 slot to himself in the National Football League's all-time rushing leaders, passing former Jet Curtis Martin. He's in back of the terrific Emmitt Smith, who's number 1 all-time, then Walter Payton, then Barry Sanders, and then the name Frank Gore.
What an accomplishment. Congratulations to him. He's done it the right way, and he's done it the hard way. Hard work and discipline. That's Frank Gore in a nutshell.
Gore on 2nd down and 2. Puts his shoulder in, and there's once again Leonard Williams. He loses a yard on the play, but he still holds on to that 4th slot, passing Curtis Martin, the Hall of Famer Curtis Martin.
What's amazing, Emmett, Walter, Barry, Curtis. Every NFL fan knows exactly who you're talking about if you only mention their first names. But Bill Parcells used to always say, Kevin, it's about strength, stamina, and endurance at that position. And that's what Frank Gore is all about. When you get into games like this with a lead, it's Frank Gore time. Keep handing the football to that man.
Into the nickel, 3rd and 3. Gore remains. And offers a block. They got him. Copeland coming through again. Taking the place of the concussed Josh Martin. Stymies the play. There's a flag. 5th sack. 5th sack at Tannehill.
Holding. Defense number 41. 5-yard penalty. Automatic. First down.
Costly penalty.
Well, Kevin, I think he led the league a season ago in defensive holding penalties, and that's one of the issues with Buster Skrine. He's a very good slot player, but at times he panics and he grabs. You look at him right here. I mean, he's in good position, but he doesn't let go when Amendola puts his foot in the ground to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he almost pulls him down.
Fistful of jerseys. Second time on 3rd down they've had a holding penalty, which is sustained Miami drive from the 45. Tannehill, and he gets it out to Grant. Quick twitch downfield, forced out of bounds by Tremaine Johnson. The catch and run to the 39. He picks up 16. Another Miami first down.
Well, we talked about these runs. Just watch how this gets done. And I mean, it's nothing more than a run to start the series. And you look at Grant, he's quick, he's fast, but watch the blocking out in front. That allows Jakeem Grant to get up on the 2nd level. Now you feel the speed in the open field with Grant.
Drake, by the way, has taken off his helmet on the sideline. Goal remains 1st and 10. Oh, that's a fumble. And the scramble. It never got to the quarterback, did it, Rich?
I don't know what happened there, Kevin. You look at Kilgore. At first, I thought maybe he felt like Tannehill was under center.
Wow.
Well, he just lost control of the football as he began to snap it. But Tannehill, that thing never made it back to Tannehill. No, I think it just slips out of his right hand. I think he knows Tannehill's in the gun. The ball just slips. He loses control of the football. And now it's a mad dash.
That's
Daniel. Another big turnover from the Dolphins.
That's Kilgore, who's played 8 years in the league in a Super Bowl with San Francisco, a veteran. At that time, that just slipped away. So the 2nd fumble in the last 3 possessions by Miami. And that stops what was a pretty good-looking drive by the Dolphins.
Well, how about the turnovers?
Wow. A lot of them.
Both teams were so good a week ago. Jets had just the one on the very first play of the game. After that, they had a clean slate. Tannehill had a couple picks last week.
So Darnold will huddle his team up. But the look at Tannehill, who's thrown 2 touchdown passes today, 29 yards to Wilson, 19 yards to his tight end, A.J. Derby. They got a 6-yard touchdown run early in the game from Kenyon Drake, who was injured and on the sideline for Miami. Now here comes Darnold, who's thrown 2 interceptions and a 28-yard touchdown pass to his running back, Powell. Crowell is in now with 3 tight ends, 1st and 10. Robbie Anderson. And ushered out of bounds by the Pro Bowler Jones at about the 45, and a meager gain of 3 on 1st down for the Jets.
Well, bad things can happen if you're Miami and you allow a team like the Jets to hang around. You came out, you had a 20-0 lead at the half. You gave up a quick touchdown. They've had a couple turnovers. They've got to have some killer instinct and find a way to put this team away.
Fitzpatrick is in defensively, the 5th defensive back, 2nd down and 7. That's Crowell. And hanging on right there, Chase Allen, gain of a yard. He's up to the 45.
Starting to see a little bit more pressure from Matt Burke, the defensive coordinator in this Miami defense.
Godshaw got a hand on him too. Nice play inside. 5 starts a year ago when he was a rookie out of LSU, but he's had his fingerprints defensively on this one. Crowell remains. 5 in the secondary for the Dolphins. 3rd down and 6. Darnold moving up. And incomplete for Anderson. Darnold was drilled. Coverage downfield by a couple, including Howard. And Jones. And a flag.
Holding. Defense, number 25.
Howard.
5-yard penalty, automatic. 1st down.
You're going to see it right here. It's Howard matched up on the speedster Robbie Anderson. He grabs a hold of him, and you see the flag come out early.
Darnold took a crushing hit, as we said, in that pocket. Releasing. Ooh. And hit hard by William Hayes. You better bet. Ooh. So it's a 1st and 10 at midfield, and Crowell is in. Darnold today, 19 of 30, 261 with 2 picks and a touchdown pass. Deflected and incomplete. A lot of hands were up. It could have been Robert Quinn who got in that passing lane. 3rd quarter has come to a close, and he will stagger to the sideline. Turnovers in the 3rd, but Miami on top. Let's go to the 4th on CBS. Couple touchdown passes by Tannehill, couple interceptions by Darnold. Those edge rushers making a difference in the game for Miami, Rich.
Well, in years past, it was just Cameron Wake, but now that you've got Robert Quinn, it really changes the way offenses can protect.
Crowell on 2nd down and 10, busting one over the left side for a 1st down. Tackled eventually by McMillan. Picks up 12 on the play. Put him at the 38-yard line.
Well, it's a good-looking hole. You just see the kick-out block there, and then, of course, the burst once they get through the hole. And this is what they have to be able to do. Continue to run the ball at the edges of this Miami defense. That outside zone stretch play was very effective a week ago for the Jets.
Ready.
Crowell again on 1st and 10.
You come right back with it, and they get stuffed.
Godshaw there throws him for a loss of 2 back to the 40-yard line of Miami.
Kevin, you and I were talking a minute ago about the edge rushers, and I said, you know, when you just had Cameron Wake, it allowed offensive lines to continue to slide the protection and slide the line that way. But now that you got Robert Quinn on the other side, you kind of have to decide how to do it. And it's made things a little bit more difficult today for the Jets. They've had to put tight ends over there. They've had to chip with the backs. They had to slide the line the opposite way. I think the pressure that the Dolphins have gotten from their front 4 has been very noticeable today.
Quinn has been out. Branch has been in. 2nd down and 12. Beach him with the block, where they got a good read on Crowell. Nice play once again by Devon Godshaw. And coming through, Jerome Baker, the rookie out of Ohio State, with a loss of 3 to the sideline, and Steve.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the two edge rushers for Miami, Robert Quinn was sitting on the bench getting examined, had to go to the tent to get evaluated. It wasn't the independent neurological. It was a shoulder, arm, wrist, something of that nature. Quinn back out of the tent now, still not back on the field, but we have to keep an eye on that and get word from officially from the Dolphins exactly what they're looking at.
Thank you, Steve. Wake is in. 5 in the secondary. 3rd and 15. Reaching the block at the left tackle. Darnold's got him. Caught by Pryor. He picks up 18 on 3rd and 15. Alonso was back there among the guys with the tackle for Miami.
We'll get and run this. I mean, this is really impressive. Just watch Darnold. He's going to sit in there. He's going to be patient. He knows he's got the receiver in the hole. It's a good throw to Terrell Pryor. Oh, they don't snap it.
No, they don't. Long held onto it.
Looked like that might have been Spencer Long just for getting the snap count.
And he changed the play too, obviously, didn't he, Rich? Setting his projections.
Clearly some miscommunication between the center and quarterback.
Offense, number 67. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Robert Quinn has come back in the game for Miami.
Well, he's had a good game, Kevin. He's gotten, if he hasn't gotten to the quarterback, he's gotten around Darnold, and he's forced him to step up and slide and move in the pocket. There's been a lot of non-rhythm throws from Darnold in this game.
Wake is out. 5 in the secondary, including Fitzpatrick. 8th play of the drive, 1st and 15.
Oh, another penalty. These pre-snap penalties right now are killing the Jets.
False start. Offense, number 77. 5-yard penalty. First down.
3rd one today.
You don't know if that's the cadence. You remember, Sam Darnold told us last night he's got to continue to change up the snap count, be able to take the edge off of these rushers. But it looks like it's having a reverse effect with guys like Carpenter. Got to be able to sit in there and hold your water.
Powell has become a receiver atop your screen. 1st and 20. Darnold moving and getting caught as he takes it up the middle. Hit there by Vincent Taylor. He got a yard out of it, though, leaning ahead. And Taylor got him at about the 34.
And one of the benefits, if you're able to rush 4 and get pressure with 4, it allows you to do so much more in the back end when you're dropping 7 in coverage. It allows you to get some doubles and to play 2 deep safeties, keep things in front of you. And the 4-man rushes today have been impressive from the Dolphins, and they've done a good job rolling different defenders through and keeping that unit fresh.
2nd and 19. They need the 15. Each in the block at the left tackle. Liftily Darnold. Now he's caught up again and brought down again by Taylor. And hit by Quinn. They got him in a grip, and it's the 3rd sack today by that Miami defense. They throw him for a loss of 3.
Well, this is impressive. We talked about the 4-man rush getting home, and they've been disciplined with their rush lanes. They're forcing the quarterback to step up and slide, and yet they find a way to come off. But this is just good effort, good energy from that front 4. And it's been a difficult day for Darnold. You're not nearly as effective if you can't set your feet and throw the ball in rhythm.
Darnold now has a 3rd and 22, 5th time today. The Jets have faced 3rd and 10 or more.
Completion here gets them in field goal range.
They got the block from Winters, and Darnold to the side and incomplete. Looking for the leaping Pryor. And the coverage by Howard among a couple down there for the Finns.
I don't understand that play, Kevin. A screen, a draw, anything to get a little bit back. They could have kicked the field goal. Instead, you've got a quarterback making a dangerous throw late down the field. That could have easily been another interception from Sam Darnold.
So here is Jason Myers. He brought in.
Now you give this is a 55-yard kick.
He kicked one in preseason from 58. you may recall.
I know, but 3rd and a bunch. If you just check it down and pick up 6 or 7, it makes this an easier kick.
55-yard field goal try is in. 55-yarder for Jason Myers. 3 more on the board for the Jets. About 10 to go in the game, trailing 20-9 on CBS. Just put 3 on the board on a 55-yard field goal. Both kickers today have missed a PAT. Darnold has thrown 2 picks and a 28-yard touchdown pass to Powell. Life in the NFL, Rich, is not easy.
No, it is. It's tough. You know, people don't realize this. Think about winning games. It's hard to go on the road and make a first down sometimes. And I think the hardest thing to do is to go on the road in the division and get a win. That's what Miami's trying to do here with a little over 10 minutes to go on this one.
Myers the kickoff out of the end zone, 25-yard line, touchback. It'll be 1st and 10. During last Sunday's season opener in Miami, the Dolphins paid tribute to Aaron Fies. He was the offensive line coach and the security guard who was among the 17 people killed during the shooting at the Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School back in February. Coach Fies' wife and daughter were part of the ceremony during the 3rd quarter, honoring him with the George Smith High School Coach of the Year Award. Ryan Tannehill missing all of last season. Coming back, winning last week with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions against Tennessee. 1st and 10. It's Gore. He was caught, brought down on the play by the former Pittsburgh Steelers, Steve McClendon. There is no gain on the play. They stay at the 25.
You don't really believe, Kevin, that Ryan Tannehill got better a season ago. You know, last year he got a chance to look at things from a different perspective and watch Cutler play. And he attended all the meetings and the game plan sessions. He was out of practice. He stayed involved mentally. He got mental and, you know, visual reps. But his teammates, I think, really respected the fact that he stayed in town, he rehabbed, he stuck with his football team, and he continued to be a leader.
They haven't thrown to the top receiver Stills in the second half. Only 2 catches today. 2nd down and 10 from the 25. Up the middle they come. And he got away. There was Frankie Louvu rocketing up the middle. Couldn't get him.
Well, when the Dolphins decided not to draft a quarterback this April, it signaled that their commitment to Ryan Tannehill. And just look at the numbers with and without Tannehill. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they're a much better football team with Ryan Tannehill under center.
Rich, you've talked about it today. 3rd down has been an issue for the Dolphins offense.
Kevin, going back a couple of years now,
right.
It's been an issue for sure. And I think it's the hardest down in football. And for whatever reason, this team has had their struggles on 3rd down.
Drake is in, 3rd and 10. Tannehill going deep, and he's got him. He's got Wilson, but he overshoots him down the sideline. Morris Claiborne was covering. It's 4th down. Here comes the Miami punting unit.
Well, I don't like Tannehill's feet, but just watch this. You want to see some speed? Whoop. I mean, he's gonna run right by Morris Claiborne. He's got him beat by 3 or 4 yards. That's wide open in the National Football League, and Tannehill just misses him. You got to be able, you got to give him a chance. I think you go back and watch the feet of Ryan Tannehill. That's why he misses the throw. He didn't have a very good base. He threw that ball off balance.
Matt Hawk to punt. Denny playing today, the 39-year-old long snapper for the Miami Dolphins. And deep back for the Jets, Roberts from the 20. The block, flag is thrown, and he is brought down on the play after a 5-yard return hit by Tanner McAvoy, who is a New Jersey kid. 55-yard punt, and Brad Allen will go over and chat. This crew was the only one of the 17 in the NFL where every eligible official was awarded a postseason assignment.
During the return, illegal blocking the back, number 17 of the return team. 10-yard penalty, 1st down, timeout.
On Chiron Peak, talking it over with the rookie quarterback. 9:01 in the 4th, trailing by 11.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network. Pizza Hut, official pizza sponsor of the NFL. And by the well-connected 2019 Lincoln MKC.
Some tape Friday night, a battle between the two best teams in the state of New Jersey. St. Peter's Prep took down #1 ranked Bergen Catholic 34-7. By the way, Minka Fitzpatrick graduated from St. Peter's Prep, the Dolphin nickel, back in 2015. Darnold in 1st and 10 after Miami sends it their way. There's Kiko Alonso out there with the stop on Isaiah Crowell, former Cleveland Brown. Undrafted player, gain of 1 right there.
We always talk about the importance of field position, and in the battlefield position of the Jets' 12 possessions today, 7 have started inside their own 20.
How about that? And probably, Rich, playing with a little bit of urgency now. Don't you think? A little bit more tempo with the 2nd down and 8. They've got to.
They're behind by 2 scores and need something good to happen here.
2nd down and 8. Enunwa reels it back in after the bounce. He got to the 27-yard line. He was hit on the play and brought down by Bobby McCain. Picks up 11. That's a 1st down for the Jets.
Well, I can already hear the comments from Coach Todd Bowles tomorrow. The ball security has been an issue. You see that ball from Quincy Enunwa. He's got it away from his body rather than high and tight. And too many balls have been on the ground today from this Jets offense.
3 turnovers, 2 interceptions. Here's a 1st and 10. Darnold downfield. And again, he's got Pryor. McCain was there with a hit. 17-yard pickup to the 44 and a 1st down.
And this is why the Jets moved up to 3rd overall to go out and get Sam Darnold. He has made some big throws here in the 2nd half. I think he's found his rhythm as they've kind of opened up things in the passing game.
Crowell on 1st and 10. Winners with the lead block right there. And there's the headless Alonso. Lost his helmet. Gain of 3 on the play, and he's up to the 47.
When you study Darnold, there's nothing he can't do. He plays with his eyes downfield. He's a good pocket passer. He's got the presence and awareness you like. He can make plays off schedule, the non-rhythm throws, and he can run the no-huddle offense.
2nd down and 7. Beecham holding off the rush over there. Here comes Crowell, cutting inside, close to a 1st down. And on the play by Harris, and a gain of 7. Give him the 1st down near the 45-yard line of Miami.
What really impressed Jeremy Bates is when they handed the playbook to Darnold. He goes home for a couple weeks. He comes back for the 3-day rookie minicamp, and he knocked it out of the park. And that was their first indicator that this guy can handle a lot of the volume.
1st and 10 in the middle. Look at Powell. Catch and run and take it downfield. Alonso grabs him. 21-yard line, 23-yard gain. Earlier in the game, a spectacular 29-yard reception for a touchdown by Powell.
And they come back to the very same play they scored the touchdown on earlier in the game. The angle route from Bilal Powell out of the backfield.
And up tempo, right? Rich, you notice it here from the 23, 1st and 10. Darnold bobbled, dropped it. Alonso there watching Terrell Pryor. Incomplete, 2nd down and 10.
What Pryor has not played well, Ken. Had the drop there. He runs a route in the back of the end zone in the 1st half, and in my opinion doesn't do a good enough job crossing the safety. Howard, who made the pick, he was late with his head and eyes out of the break. And you look at Pryor, only 20 catches last year in 9 games with the Redskins and only 1 touchdown. He made just 2 starts.
Darnold is thrown for 334 through the air. 2nd down and 10. Darnold deep. Incomplete for Anderson. The coverage on the play by Minka Fitzpatrick. He's got about 35 people watching. He played at Jersey City, New Jersey High School, and from Old Bridge, New Jersey.
This is good coverage by Fitzpatrick. Kevin, you mentioned he's got a lot of family and friends here. He said he had to get a bunch of tickets for some of his buddies in Pop Warner and high school, but they want him around the action, down around the line of scrimmage. We talked about the fact that he's probably their best blitzer and best tackler already.
3rd and 10. Beecham the block at the tackle on the go over to the far side. There's Alonso. You better believe it. It was intended for the running back Bilal Powell. 4th and 10, Rich. They're going to bring out the field goal unit with 6 to play.
That's the right decision. They're down by 2 scores. You need a field goal, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. And 4th and 10, the right thing to do here is kick the field goal.
So the second half for the Jets. They've seen a 28-yard touchdown pass to Powell. They missed the PAT. A 55-yard field goal moments ago from Jason Myers. Now he's going to try one from 41. And he got it. 41-yard field goal. They creep to within 8. 5:56 to go. Darnold in his home debut for the Jets. Rookie Sam Darnold, 25 of 41, 334. Touchdown and 2 interceptions. His team within 8. They've scored the last 2 possessions on a 55-yard field goal moments ago from 41. In the second half, Rich, Miami, 4 possessions, 2 fumbles and 2 punts.
Sloppy. And really, when they had opportunities up 20-0 to kind of put this game out of reach, but they've allowed the Jets to hang around, and now they find themselves in a situation where they've got to be able to do something here on offense to ice this game.
Jason Myers earlier kicked a 55-yard field goal, and they're going to let this go over the head of Grant. And a touchback to the 25, where it'll be first down and 10. Coming up next on CBS, doubleheader day will continue here. Most of you seeing a rematch of last season's AFC Championship. Tom Brady and the Patriots go to Jacksonville to take on Blake Bortles and the Jaguars. Rest of you will see an AFC West showdown between Oakland and Denver. Right here on the home of Super Bowl 53, CBS Sports. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Steve Tasker. 5:56 to go. Miami's led most of the game. Tannehill 2 touchdown passes. There have been a couple of turnovers, a couple fumbles by the Dolphins.
Well, you know Brady misses Danny Amendola. You look at his numbers, and he's so good inside in the slot, working between the numbers.
First and 10 handoff here. Drake busting one free in the secondary. Got the block on the play, and the block was from Grant. And he dances his way on a run of 20 yards, and a big one it was, to the 43-yard line, and a first down for Miami. Make it the 45.
Boy, a much-needed big run. The Dolphins had only 47 yards of offense in the second half before that big run from Kenyon Drake. And this is where he's so good in the open field, making a defender miss.
A couple of years ago, he had a 96-yard kick return touchdown against these Jets. Big day here. A lot of numbers there for Drake out of Alabama. First down and 10. Gore in the backfield. It's Frank Gore. He sledgehammers his way for 5. Adams got him, getting to midfield. Second down and 5. The ultimate professional, Rich, Frank Gore. I know you've admired him from afar for many years.
You look at the struggles the Dolphins have had there here in the second half, but you're right, Kevin. I thought it was interesting in talking to Adam Gase last night. He said in the last 3 years, you look at yards after contact, his numbers have gone up. And you look at his production last year playing behind that Colts offensive line that wasn't very good. That's probably a pretty good indicator that this guy still has some tread left on those tires.
Fake to Drake. Here comes Tannehill. Second and 5's got the first down. Galloping into Jets territory to the 36. Chased there by Doug Middleton. 14-yard run and a first down by the Miami quarterback.
Well, you're going to see the fake, and then watch the tight end come around. He kicks out, and then Tannehill just pulls the ball down and runs. You don't expect this from a guy who's coming off of a major ACL reconstruction, but it just shows you that Ryan Tannehill can still get it done with his legs.
When Gase has been coaching Tannehill, the record is 9-5. Has a very high QBR, and he's over 70% completion. Tannehill today has rushed it 4 times for 39 yards. The pitch out here, Drake. Chased and grabbed. Nice play, Morris Claiborne. He'll throw him for a loss, and it's back to about the 44-yard line, 43-yard line of the Jets, losing 6.
Oh, boy, you hate these negative runs. And there's nowhere to go. This is good pursuit. Everyone's in the right gap, and you see the good open field tackle from the corner, Morris Claiborne. You can't play corner here in New York if you don't show up and run support. Todd Bowles won't have you. It's critical that you're able to play the run and play corner for the Jets.
Jets with 5 in the secondary. Second down, 17. Drake at the side of Tannehill. Leonard Williams devours them, losing 3. And Drake is back to the 45. Williams has had some nice plays today on that defensive line for New York.
Well, they need more big plays like this from their former 2015 first rounder, and you just see the penetration from Leonard Williams. He needs to be able to dominate and really be the centerpiece of that defensive line. He certainly has the talent.
Jets have taken a timeout. 3.5 to go.
Well, this is a big down here. 3rd and 19. You got to think screen, draw something quick to try and put themselves in a position to try and kick a field goal. That's what you're thinking if you're Ryan Tannehill. You're not going to most likely convert a 3rd and 19. The percentages are well below 10%. You got to be smart in this situation and give your field goal kicker a chance to put you up by 2 scores.
3rd and 19. Gore is the back.
Going to pick up about 7 or 8 yards.
Timeout Tannehill, 3.5 to play. He seems confident and Rich very comfortable with this Adam Gase playbook in Miami.
And I think the play caller and head coach feels comfortable and confident with Ryan Tannehill in there as opposed to what they had a season ago. There's some history with Tannehill. He knows what to expect. I think he has the confidence that this guy can get him in the right plays, change protections, in a critical situation, make a big play either with his arm or with his legs. And running here on 3rd down and long wouldn't be the end of the world. If Tannehill finds a seam or a crease to be able to pull it down and pick up 7 or 8 yards, would really help and certainly be appreciated by your field goal kicker, Jason Sanders.
On this drive, Tannehill has run for a first down of 14 himself. Drake ran 1 for 20. They took over with 5:56. Upcoming is the 6th play of the drive. 3rd and 19. They need the 26. Gore in the backfield. And Tannehill will look into the nickel.
Well, maybe you take a shot. You block him up and maybe take a shot. That's what they're going to do.
Moves up. Underneath. It's Gore. He's got the first down. Gore to the 25. Stopped by Middleton. Frank Gore, 35 years of age. A catch and run at 20. A big-time offensive play and a first down for Miami.
Well, somebody blows an assignment. Somebody has to cover the back just sneaking out. And what happens is I think they get tied up. They feel that Tannehill's is sacked, and the safety comes off. It's Jamal Adams. He's got to cover Frank Gore, and Tannehill sits in there with a tough jaw. Look at that catch by the 14-year vet.
On the 26, multiple tight ends and an extra lineman. Gore on 1st and 10. A block, and he burrows his way near the 21 with a gain of 4. Clock continues to tick. Jets have 2 timeouts. Miami's got 2 timeouts. Clock is stopped at 2:41. Timeout, New York.
You got to start using those timeouts.
Yep.
They've got the 2-minute warning. Miami already in field goal range.
I'd like to remind you, the NFL Today update delivered by Pizza Hut is being prepared, time permitting. In our NFL Today studio, the JB and Company, scores and highlights and news. Mahomes has thrown 6 touchdown passes today for the Chiefs. Most ever. He threw 4 last week in LA against the Chargers. That's 10 in 2 weeks for a first-time starter and a second-year quarterback.
I think the time he spent last year watching and learning from Alex Smith really helped him. And then, of course, the start that he got in week 17, I think it was against the Broncos, certainly helped him this year.
2nd down and 6. Gore bouncing and digging and finally held by a couple, including Claiborne. And also over there was Lee. There's no gain on the play. He stays at the 22.
Here's a back that understands the situation in the game. You watch Frank Gore. He's got 2 hands on the football. And really the only way the Jets can win this game is to come up with a turnover. If Miami's able to kick a field goal, this game is pretty much over.
Jets have just used their final timeout.
Good look at the head coach, Adam Gase, having a conversation with one of the better special teams coaches in the business, Darren Rizzi. He's there in the orange hat.
Rich, they talk in Miami about better chemistry. There's a better feel. There's a kind of a culture shift here this third year for Gase.
It's taken Adam Gase and this organization a while to get the right people in the building. I think he initially came and he wanted to change the culture and the environment. You can't do that overnight. Sometimes you've got some players and some contracts that you got to live with, but I think slowly but surely he's gotten the right 53 players, and he's excited about this football team.
Drake in 3rd and 6.
Run it again.
They fake it, and here comes Tannehill. He'll slide, and he's got a first down to the 14 of New York. 8-yard run. Earlier on this drive, a 14-yard run by the Miami quarterback. Gore had a catch and run for 20. Drake ripped one off for 20, and that puts the Jets in a very tough spot. It's 1st and 10, Miami at the 14, and the clock will wind its way down to the 2-minute warning. The Jets are out of timeouts, and Miami is looking to go to 2-0.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Bud Light, enjoyed by Giant Blue fictional knights everywhere.
The Jets are out of timeouts. Miami has got it. With a 1st and 10 at the 14 of New York. Leading by 8. 2-minute warning. Couple interceptions for Darnold today. Over 300 yards throwing. A touchdown pass to his running back Powell. And the victory formation for the Dolphins.
Really good numbers from Ryan Tannehill today. 17 of 23, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it's the hidden numbers. How about this? 5 carries for 47 yards from a guy who is coming off of a major ACL repair. And a number of these runs were for big first downs. In fact, that one ices the game. And that's what you got to like about Ryan Tannehill. I give him my game ball today, Kevin. He made some big plays. Not just with his arms, but with his legs. Look at that, 47 yards rushing. He rushed for more than the entire Jets offense.
One other player, Rich, on the 2nd down and 11. Again, they take the knee. The punter, Matt Hawk. We don't talk about punters much. He had 6 punts today. All 6 were inside the 20-yard line.
And we talked about the struggles that the Jets had with field position. They started a majority of their drives from inside the 20. And if you're going to give a special teams game ball, Kevin, I suppose we can give one out to the punter. I hate giving kickers game balls, but Matt Hawk's going to get one
He's been pretty good
for some pinpoint accuracy and some directional kicking inside the 20.
3 inside the 10. Jets out of timeouts. 3rd down and 12 for Miami. Tannehill with a couple touchdown passes today, Rich.
And this is something to build on. If you look at the way the Dolphins have started 2-0, Kevin, it's how they've done it. They've gotten plays in all 3 phases of the kicking game. Today, defensively, they came up with a lot of big turnovers. Plays in the kicking game. And then you look at what they did offensively. Not just in terms of the production in the passing game, but their commitment to the running game. And in particular, Ryan Tannehill, who made some big first downs with his legs.
Last time Miami was 2-0, 2013. They have beaten the Jets 4 of the last 5, winning today in the Meadowlands 20-12. Coming up next, game 2 of our doubleheader, Patriots, Jaguars, or Raiders, Broncos. For Rich Gannon and Steve Tasker, this is Kevin Harlan saying so long from East Rutherford, New Jersey. We'll get you back to our New York studios in the NFL Today update delivered by Pizza Hut right after this on CBS.